did a poem called Painted Black, because people used to ask me what the difference was between Jackson, Tennessee and New York City, and I'd say about 500-600 miles. Truth was, it went a whole lot deeper than that. And the description of the poem went something like this. Picture a man of nearly 30 who appears twice as old with clothes torn and dirty. Give him a job shining shoes or cleaning out toilets with bus station crews. Give him 6 children with nothing to eat and expose them to life on a ghetto street. Tie an old rag around his wife's head and have her pregnant, lying in bed. Stuff all 8 of these people in a D.C. house and then tell them how bad things are down south.
Yeah. I had 200 for lunch. Last night I fucked on a cunt. 24 shows in a month. Looked at that time, it was crunch. Ice, diamonds is crushed. Louis V, but my t-shirt is tucked. Yeah, cold as a slush. Belly wrist on, sipping a test. Go get it, I must. Fuck up good enough, pussy, no must. Yeah, love and I lust. My crew loyal, we trusted in us. Yeah, running it up. Got this shit out the ground in the mud. Yeah, look at it glitz, see what I mean. A lot of big faces, do pink and green. Fuck on her naked, bust on her spleen. Cross on the car, 3K for the jeans. Feel like a punk, keep a trick on my sleeve. I'm cool on you, dog, cause I don't want to flee. I'm smoking exotic, it don't gotta see. Been in the roof and I can feel the breeze. Packers got nachos, that's chili cheese. Smoking gelato, got me feeling knees. Might call that rolling for my oldest knees. I drop a hit, I'm knowing what they need. I check out the motor, gotta have some speed. Louis by focus, I can see the feed. Cash running over, I can feel the greed. I had 200 for lunch. Last night I fucked on a cunt. 24 shows in a month. Looked at that time, it was crunch. Ice, diamonds is crushed. Louis V, but my t-shirt is tucked. Yeah, cold as a slush. Belly wrist on, sipping a test. Go get it, I must. Fuck up good enough, pussy, no must. Yeah, love and I lust. My crew loyal, we trusted in us. Yeah, running it up. Got this shit out the ground in the mud. When they got rich out the ground in the mud. Riding the roads and the mink is a rug. 911 push in the trunk is a hood. Told her come to come and sit on this wood. Neighborhood truck used to cap up a jug. Put the net in the back of the hood. I never read and keep that understood. Ain't going backwards, I don't think I could. These labels be trapping rappers like they should. Got M's in that bad bitch, I feel life is good. They necking the pavement, held down by my foot. Been patiently waiting, wish a nigga would. Just drop a location, my niggas are done. I got an old bitch, can't wait for me to scroll. Just picked up 200, don't hit it the 4. I had 200 for lunch. Last night I fucked on a cunt. 24 shows in a month. Looked at that time, it was crunch. Ice, diamonds is crushed. Louis V, but my t-shirt is tucked. Yeah, cold as a slush. Belly wrist on, sipping a test. Go get it, I must. Fuck up good enough, pussy, no must. Yeah, love and I lust. My crew loyal, we trusted in us. Yeah, running it up. Got this shit out the ground in the mud. I blow bush, got these clouds on the butt. Throw them rats up, it look like a flood.
I feel at all that, I mean, in black music today, that there is a lack of like some of the real soul that made it really special in the 60s.
I can't tell who's singing. That's what really bothers me, is that I don't know who it is. What I like about music, and the kind of music that I like, is the kind that, like, hey, 20 seconds into the tune, you know who this artist is because there's something unique about him or her. That's why they put this record on. Yeah. Not because it sounded like this one or it fit comfortably between commercials, but because there's really something worthwhile here. Yeah. And I'm saying when one turns to the other, which turns to the other one, which turns into and around and in on itself again, I'm just not happy. I hope those people are who are playing that stuff. But I really like individual music, and it doesn't matter like where it's coming from.
My bitch a dirty die young nigga Michael Jackson bad. I can't ball Steve Nash. Yeah, I wake up, Papa Tan. All of my phone rings fast. Yeah, I made myself the man. I'm about to sign new advance. The millions in the man. I took some shrooms with the homie. I bought my new bitch a roller. I went never tell on the code. I could parasail if I want. These niggas have shell in they show. I could send some shells to your cola. I know they young gonna wanna choke. Be patient, I'm living in the moment. That's my people, they gon' say I'm 100. It's these pussies, they tryna take me under. I won't let them, can't take me out my comfort. We send bullets, big bullets by the bundle. 2020, I'm looking through a tunnel. Can't see fully, but no, I'm seeing numbers. Bitch so sexy, I fuck without a color. Oh yeah, animal straight up out the jungle. My bitch a dirty die young nigga Michael Jackson bad. I can't ball Steve Nash. Yeah, I wake up, Papa Tan. bought me a mad bad Mercedes. Don't mean much, but I know these niggas hate it. Call my shit on the ones that say I'm lazy. I'm on drugs moving slower than the Matrix. She won't make up, then impress me by some makeup. Trust the joker, you see me in Jamaica. If I pull up, bitch, drop a can of flavor. I went up since the interview on Fatal. Bought a Glock with a beam and a laser. On my strap, I couldn't trust her with the taser. She say, watch him, I know your heart is fatal. If you fail, then I know the automator. For the critics, we steady counting paper. We like critics, just jumping off the table. Right up on me some syrup, not the maple. Watch these girls in the world, they can take it. My bitch a dirty Diana. Young nigga Michael Jackson bad. I can't ball Steve Nash. Yeah, I wake up, I pretend. All of my foreign fast. Yeah, I made myself the man.
I was wondering about our yesterdays and digging through the rubble. And to say the least, somebody went to a hell of a lot of trouble to make sure that when we looked things up, we wouldn't fare too well. And we would come up with totally unreliable pictures of ourselves. But I've compiled what few facts I could, such as they are, to see if we could find out a little bit of something. And this is what I got so far. First, white folks discovered Africa. They claimed it fair and square. Cecil Rhodes couldn't have been robbing nobody because, hell, there wasn't nobody there. And white folks brought all the civilization because there wasn't none around. How could the folks be civilized when wasn't nobody writing nothing down? And just to prove all of their suspicions, well, didn't take too long. They found out that there were whole tribes of people in plain sight running around with no clothes on. That's right. The men, the women, the young, and the old righteous folks covered their eyes. And no time was spent considering the environment. Hell no, this just wasn't civilized. And another piece of information they had, or at least this is what we were taught, is that unlike the civilized people of Europe, these tribal units actually fought. And yes, there was some crude implements, and yes, there was primitive art, and yes, they were masters of hunting and fishing, and courtesy came from the heart. And yes, there was love and medicine, religion, intertribal communication by drum, but no paper, no pencils, and no other utensils, and hell, these folks never even heard of a gun. And this is why the colonies came, to stabilize the land, because the dark continent had copper and gold, and the discoverers had themselves a plan. They would discover all the places with promise. You didn't need no titles and deeds. Then they would appoint people to make everything legal, to sanction the trickery and greed. And back in the jungle, when the natives got restless, they would call it guerrilla attack. And they would never describe that the folks finally got wise and decided that they would fight back. And still, we are victims of word games. Semantics is always a bitch. Places once referred to as underdeveloped are now called mineral rich. And the game goes on eternally. Unity kept just beyond reach. Egypt and Libya used to be in Africa. They've now been moved to the Middle East. There are examples galore, I assure you. But if interpreting were left up to me, I'd be sure every time folks knew this version wasn't mine, which is why it is called his story.